Black Culture, Part 2. Were we protected in Germany? Of course, you have heard Esther Fordham interview how that we as black people lived underneath the ruling of Adolf Hitler. I am not emphasizing at all that he loved us or he enjoyed us. Moreover, he did not establish a law to segregate us. There was no segregation for black people during the reign of Hitler in 1941 through 1945 in the war. There was no Nazi that were beaten on black people as the American cops were. Well, you know, the American police officer. During the 1940s, you can imagine what they could do to us and get away with it. Furthermore, it's the Hitler law versus the America's law. The law that was targeting us. We were, remember, 3/5 of a man. Other part, animals. People saying that, oh, you guys, would you have rather been under Adolf Hitler? Eventually, he would have made it to you. Says who? No, not exactly. You know, it's just like Putin and the Russian. They knew not to target Africans in Ukraine. And all the soldiers were warned not to harm an African. Or, of course, the Ukrainian press, United States press, the press of NATO, they would immediately place it on that black man if he was laying there dead. And then Putin could never enter Africa. See, you have to know global war, its strategy, its plan, how they scheme, how they plot, and how they all in cahoots, all collaborating on how to bring down a nation. Going back to us in Germany, how about the Nazi in American society? Well, over there, they wouldn't bother us. They were not gearing in, it was not in their mind to target a black person and beat them on the head with a stick. Remember Martin Luther King? That was just the 60s. The 60s. We were being abused, not just by those in high places, but by citizens. This is what the chaos, the pandemonium, the things that was taking place in this nation for black people. Always remember, racism or bigotry or even prejudiced behavior, it doesn't establish itself. It is imposed by those in high places. It's the law that create racism. Here in Germany in 1940s, the law was to target people who were of European descendants, but they received the Jewish culture. So once they received the Jewish culture, guess what happened? They was hunted like animals. Remind you of somebody or a group of people? You couldn't hide from the Nazis. But in the testimony of Esther Fordham, she revealed that her friend was a Jew and had the Star of David on her. And she said, take it off so you can play. And the Jewish girl said, I can't. People watching me. People were watching her. So who was a second-class citizen? Who? She had her store. Her mother had her store, speaking on the parents of Esther Fordham. But all of the Jewish people lost their property. Now, by no means I am saying that this was a good man. He's the biggest monster that you can even ever think of, even biblically. Of course he was a beast. Of course he was a dragon released from the dungeon. But if this is what he is labeled, then what shall we label those who was in America when it came to them treating us as animals? Of course, you're saying that this was not slavery. Yes, they were slaves. Black people were not enslaved under Hitler. They were the European. Some other people in the concentration camp had blue eyes. Some other German was in the concentration camp. How could you differentiate? Okay? How could you distinguish a German from a Jew if they both were without melanin and pigmentation, which produces color? Well, Hitler, apparently, he knew the Bible more than most Americans when it came to the Jewish culture. He knew that Hebrews was not based on skin color. Neither was it based on region, certain part of the world. He knew that it was based on circumcision. So all he would have to do is ask for the file of every individual in society and see if they were circumcised. So yes, even if you had blue eyes and on your birth certificate, here it is, a European trying to make the transition, trying to become a Jew, then you were hunted. It was just that easy. It was just that simple. So in actuality, he was never a white supremacist. White supremacists fight and protect white people. No, he was Aryan supremacist, which means straight German power without the mixture of the Jewish culture nor from their parents. He wanted all German breed. So, of course, you're saying that, well, what about the black people? He sterilized the black people. No, that's a misperception. This is a misunderstanding. I'm trying to make this as perceivable as possible. Please comprehend this. In the 1939, okay, it was ordered that from the Nazi medical research, they were trying to find out as far as how the DNA worked, the geneticists. So they took approximately 300 children, adolescent, from the German women, okay, German mothers. Remember the GIs from the 1914 to 1918 World War I, where they laid with some of the soldiers, African soldiers, GI that were there. And some of them were French soldiers. So this was a great opportunity to take children which were illegitimate, the Ryland, illegitimate children. That's what they called it back then, but they used another word, which I'm reluctant to use. But they took these children because there was no father there to protect them. There were Africans there. There were African children, African family, but they wouldn't go to them. So they went to the German, European women. Why? Because they laid with the enemy. They had children of the enemy. So it was not black children. They was called the biracial children. And so he sterilized them. Yes, this was that formality of a birth control. Remember, they didn't have in the 1920s the Margaret Sanger. She targeted women to take pills for the Planned Parenthood Foundation and its establishment. So here they targeted the man for a birth control system. So he imposed this on these young children. And eventually it made up to 375,000 individuals, approximately. And guess what? Of course, there was nowhere near that many Africans over there. So it became part of anyone that were not the good old Aryan nation. You see, so he always remember, he was not fighting, all right, a racist war according to color. You have to understand global war. You see, war involves land, not races or people, ethnicity, and so on, or anything of that nature. Racism means race. You race into land. It's the landlord, and you make someone landless. This is what racism is based on. So, of course, he knew the better than anyone. So he knew that no other one were a threat to him. No other threat to him but the European nation. Only the Europeans was racing for land. Whether it takes annihilation or a genocide, a massacre, that is what requires racism. United States only built racism on color. Only in this nation, and they taught their European brothers, other nation, that is based on color. That's why we are target, no matter where we go in this world. Oh yes, remember even in Germany. Remember Esther Fordham? When the store was bombed and most of the houses were bombed, they went to the bomb shelter with the Nazis and their family to get away from the war. Well, you need to Google what happened to the Africans when Russia was bombing Ukraine. Many people was heading to Poland, but they wouldn't let the African get on the train. A report from one African person. You can't get on. But they let all the European on, and he said, then they turned around and they let the dog on. But they couldn't get on. And they requested that some of them would stay there and fight for them. And the African like, we're not fighting for you. You see what's going on here? But the soldier would never touch an African. You see, they were reluctant to bring harm to one African individual. You see, because Putin knew that, hey, in case I lose, all the Europeans turn against me. I'm going with those who have pigmentation, okay, which produce a color. He's the only one in BRICS. You know, BRICS was Brazil and with India and China and South Africa. Look what's going on in this world. Do you see? And then there's NATO. Do you know that NATO involves 31 nations and none of them are with color, with pigmentation, from Sweden to Italy, all of them. But then on the BRICS side, as in BRICS, all of them have color except Putin. Except Putin. They took him in. Only Russia's the only nation on the BRICS side. You don't see that there is going to be a explosion? Is this revealing racism in this world, a global racism? What is exactly going on? You need to continue to watch and be very circumspect towards all of the things that is taking place, and do not allow anyone to bring any diabolical behavior on you. I mean, listen to some of the comments that I'm receiving. Listen to what some of them are saying. I left some of them on intentionally so you can see that I'm waking up prejudiced people. I am not exalting Hitler whatsoever. I am just comparing what had happened to us as in the black culture in United States of America compared to what happened in which they call the worst place ever been created when it came to humanity. And that depends on which culture, which ethnicity, which nationality you're referring to. Which one? Furthermore, so keep these things in mind. Do not allow anyone to dupe you. Do not allow anyone to just befriend you only to later on betray you. What is war all about? Should we continue to be in the military? Should we continue to fight to keep us on the plantation? Why are we even fighting? We have no land. We have not been rewarded. There's no reparation. These same people that Hitler enslaved, yes, it's slavery, they worked the sun up to sundown, some of them, prior to going into the fiery furnace. This is why they call it the Holocaust, but do not allow that word to supersede slavery. Yes, they want to remind the world globally that we were slaves, but them, it's a Holocaust. No, we had a Holocaust when we was on the ship in chain. Some of us didn't make it. We was cast out. So we voyaged in our Holocaust. Some people might say to me, oh, there we go again, another one singing a sad song. Why am I presenting this to you? Why? Because judgment is coming. God is setting up his plan. Enough is enough. Always remember, God's sitting back waiting on that final stage. Look what's going on. Just as Hitler targeted in the Hebrews, look in this nation, the establishment of another culture, LGBTQ, another culture has been developed. See, the law can do what it wants to do. The law can make the homeless important. It's all about how they write it up. But apparently, we're still not important in this law. Why? Because we're not enforcing it. But you will never be free until you have land you can call your own. I agree, no segregation is needed. I have some great white European friends. Nonetheless, I do believe in colonization. The United States know that very well in all of the European stations. That way, everybody still get along, but let some of the black people, some of the most mastermind people in this world, is in the United States in the black culture. You think God going to allow this world to go on, whereas we would never, ever, until world end, come to a time where we will make decisions for our own and our own people? We're only going to continue to strengthen those who once used to be our oppressor. It's not going to last forever. But as I see, I talk to God very well in the mountains, and he has informed me a very great day is coming for the black culture. And I can say, get ready. In a global explosion can really take place. The world's dividing. BRICS and NATO. What is happening? Don't forget to subscribe. And oh yes, I got some good stuff for the other one. The other part too. And in the meantime, take care of yourself. And be safe out there.